Welcome back to the DAWG Mentality, winning in business, sports, and life. I'm your host, Jeffrey Wendel. Last episode, we laid the foundation, faith, family, and health. Today, we build on top of it. Today, we talk about legacy. And I want to start with a story you have almost certainly heard, because I want to show you how to handle it honestly. In 1888, a Swedish chemist named Alfred Nobel, the man who invented dynamite, opened a French newspaper and read his own obituary. There'd been a mix-up. His brother Ludwig had died, and the paper confused the two. As the story is usually told, the headline read, "The Merchant of Death is Dead." And the piece said Nobel had grown rich by finding ways to kill more people faster than ever before. And the story says that reading it changed everything. Now here's the part almost nobody tells you. Historians have never found an original copy of that obituary. The dramatic Merchant of Death version appears to trace back to a 1959 biography, and a number of scholars now treat it as a myth, or at best, a heavily embellished retelling. So why am I telling you a story I just told you might not be true? Because the documented part is more powerful than the legend. Here's what is not in dispute. On November 27, 1895, Alfred Nobel signed his third and final will at the Swedish-Norwegian Club in Paris. In it, he directed roughly 94% of his entire fortune to fund annual prizes for those who deliver the greatest benefit to humankind. The first Nobel Prizes were awarded in 1901. One document, one signature. And more than a century later, we still say his name, not for dynamite, but for that. Which brings me to the big idea of this episode, and it's the one I want you to hold on to for the next 25 minutes. Legacy is not something that happens to you after you're gone. It is a project you execute while you're here. It is the last great championship, and it gets won exactly the way every other championship gets won, through discipline, attitude, will, and gratitude. Let's start by taking legacy out of the funeral home and putting it back on the field where it belongs. The psychologist Erik Erikson mapped out 8 stages of human development, and the one that occupies most of adult life he called generativity versus stagnation. Generativity is the drive to build, mentor, and create things that outlast you. Stagnation is what happens when that drive has nowhere to go, when a person turns inward and starts collecting instead of contributing. Erikson's insight was that this is not a retirement issue. It's the central tension of your middle life. It shows up in your 40s. It shows up at the top of your career. It's the quiet question underneath the phrase, "Is this all there is?" And here's what makes it practical rather than philosophical. Thinking about your legacy measurably changes what you do right now. In 2015, researchers Lisa Zavel, Ezra Markowitz, and Elke Weber published a study in Psychological Science. They had participants complete a short writing task about how they wanted to be remembered by future generations, simply priming legacy motivation. The result? Compared to controls, the primed group donated more money to an environmental charity, reported stronger intentions to act, and expressed stronger beliefs about long-term consequences. A brief writing exercise, measurable behavior change. That is the entire thesis of this episode in one experiment. Legacy is not a passive inheritance, it's an input. When you make the long horizon vivid, your short-term decisions change. And here's the part that surprised me most when I first read it. Researchers led by Tara Grunwald analyzed data from the MacArthur Study of Successful Aging, following adults aged 70 to 79 over a 7-year period. They asked a simple question at baseline. How useful do you feel to your friends and family? Compared with older adults who frequently felt useful to others, those who never or rarely felt useful were significantly more likely to become disabled or to die over the follow-up period. Feeling needed was associated with living longer. Think about what that means. Legacy isn't only something you hand to other people. Building for others appears to be part of what keeps a human being upright. Generativity isn't charity, it's fuel. So the question is not whether you'll leave a legacy. You will. Everybody does, by default, and default legacies are usually accidents. The question is whether yours is designed. And design requires the same thing every other championship requires, a plan you actually write down. Which brings us to the uncomfortable part of this episode. Here's where I have to stop encouraging you and start challenging you. In late 2025, Deloitte Private surveyed 300 executives at family businesses in the United States, C-level leaders, board members, owners, at companies with revenues from $100 million to over $1 billion. 78% expected a CEO transition within the next decade. 42% expected it within 3 to 5 years. 85% agreed that strategic succession planning is critical to long-term success, and only 57% had actually established a plan. Fewer than a quarter, 23%, were actively implementing one. 23%. Deloitte called it the succession paradox, and I think that's exactly right. Almost everyone knows it matters, almost no one has done the work. Now, you've probably heard the grim statistic that goes with this, that only 30% of family businesses survive to the second generation, 13% to the third, 3% to the fourth. It gets quoted in every succession seminar in America, and I'm going to be straight with you about it because I promised you verified information on this show. That statistic traces back to research by John Ward at Northwestern's Kellogg School, published in 1987, based on 200 randomly selected Illinois manufacturers tracked from 1924 to 1984. But Ward's actual sentence was, only 13% of successful family businesses last through 3 generations. Somewhere along the way, through got misquoted as to, and that single word change knocks at least 30 years off the apparent lifespan of these companies. Ward's data actually showed that 32% of the firms survived at least 60 years, and roughly 13% operated independently under the same name for 90 years or more. So the honest version is less apocalyptic than the seminar version, but it is still sobering. Even under the generous reading, the large majority of what people spend a lifetime building does not make it to the great-grandchildren. And it isn't just businesses. In a Pew Research Center survey of 8,750 American adults conducted in September of 2025, only 32% said they had created a will. 31% had a living will or advance directive. 20% had made burial or funeral arrangements. 2/3 of American adults have not written down what happens to what they built. Now, I'm not your attorney and I'm not your financial advisor, and nothing here is legal or financial advice. Go get real professionals for that. My point is about the mentality. Think about how absurd this is in DAWG terms. In episode 4, we said the will to win is forged in preparation, in the unseen hours before the competition ever starts. In episode 8, we said success is not an accident. In episode 6, we introduced the 501 Club, setting a goal so audacious it forces you to reinvent how you operate. And then, on the single most consequential handoff of our entire lives, most of us wing it. We plan the quarter, we plan the season, we plan the exit multiple, and we leave the actual transfer of everything we built, the business, the values, the relationships, the money, the instructions, to chance and to grief. That's not humility. That's an unprepared team walking into a championship game. Discipline says, write it down. Will says, write it down now, while it's awkward and early, not later when it's urgent and too late. So what does a design legacy actually look like? Let me give you 2 models. Model 1 comes from Jim Collins and Jerry Porras in Built to Last. They drew a distinction that has stuck with me for decades. Time telling versus clock building. A time teller is the brilliant individual who can look at the sun and tell you exactly what time it is. Impressive, useful, and completely dependent on that one person being in the room. A clock builder builds a clock that tells time long after the builder is gone. Collins and Porras found that the truly enduring companies were built by clock builders. Leaders focused on creating an institution, not on being the indispensable genius at the center of it. So here's the hard question. In your organization, your team, your family, are you telling time or building a clock? Because if everything stops when you walk out of the room, you don't have a legacy, you have a dependency. Model 2 comes from a coach. In 1934, a young high school teacher named John Wooden wrote down his own definition of success. Peace of mind that comes from knowing you made the effort to become the best you are capable of becoming. Then he started building a framework around it, a structure he called the Pyramid of Success. It took him 14 years to finish. 14 years on a diagram. He completed it in the spring of 1948, the same season he took the head coaching job at UCLA. And then he coached and coached and did not win a national championship. Not in year 1, not in year 5, not in year 10. His first NCAA title came in 1964, his 16th season at UCLA, with a perfect 30-0 record, beating Duke 98-83 in Kansas City. And once it started, it did not stop. 10 national championships in 12 years. Here's the legacy point, and it's the one I most want you to hear. The pyramid was finished 16 years before the first championship. Wooden built the clock, then waited. And today, decades after his last game, more people can describe his pyramid than can name a single score he won. The framework outlived the record. That's clock building. And the most reliable clock any of us builds is not a document or a diagram. It's a person. The research backs that up on both sides of the relationship. In 2004, Tammy Allen and colleagues published a meta-analysis in the Journal of Applied Psychology and found that people who were mentored showed better career outcomes than those who weren't, on objective measures like compensation and advancement, and subjective ones like career satisfaction. But look at the other side of the desk. In 2013, Rajashi Ghosh and Thomas Rio published a meta-analysis in the Journal of Vocational Behavior on what happens to the mentor. Mentors reported greater job satisfaction, stronger organizational commitment, and better job performance than non-mentors. Read those two together and you get something remarkable. Mentoring is one of the rare transactions where both sides come out ahead. You pour into somebody else and you get more, not less. That's gratitude turned into a strategy. And it's the version of legacy that doesn't require you to be wealthy, famous, or finished. You can start it Thursday. Here is your DAWG Mentality challenge for this week. 4 moves. This is the most important homework I've given you in 14 episodes. 1. Write the paragraph. Take 20 minutes, alone, phone off, and write the paragraph you would want someone who knows you well to say about you 20 years from now. Not a resume, a character description. The Zaval research says this exercise alone will start bending your decisions. Then keep it where you'll see it. 2. Run the dependency test. List the 3 things that would break inside your organization, your team, or your household if you disappeared for 90 days. Those 3 items are your clock building list. Pick one this month and build the system, the document, or the trained person that makes you unnecessary to it. 3. Do the unglamorous paperwork. Make the appointment. Whatever your version is, the will, the succession conversation, the written instructions, the account list nobody else knows about. 68% of American adults haven't done it. Be in the other group. Book the meeting this week. You don't have to finish it this week. 4. Name your one. Choose one person to intentionally pour into over the next 12 months. Not a vague offer to reach out anytime. A real, scheduled, named commitment. Then tell them. That's it. Write the paragraph, run the test, do the paperwork, name your one. And notice what this takes. It takes discipline to work on something that has no deadline and no applause. It takes attitude to see the end of the story as a design problem instead of a fear. It takes will to start on a project you will not personally see completed, which is, when you think about it, the purest form of will there is. And it takes gratitude to recognize that everything you're passing on was handed to you first by coaches and parents and mentors who built clocks you're still reading the time from. Because here's the truth I've landed on after 33 years of this work. You do not get to choose whether you're remembered. You only get to choose whether you prepared for it. Alfred Nobel got one signature. Wooden got 14 years on a diagram. You get today. Next time on the DAWG Mentality, we finally arrive at the letter we've been circling for 14 episodes, the G, gratitude. And I'm going to make an argument that might surprise you, that gratitude is not a soft skill, not a nice to have, and not a decoration on top of performance. It is a strategic advantage, measurable in resilience, in team strength, and in results. Episode 15, the G in DAWG, gratitude as the ultimate performance enhancer. Until then, remember, discipline, attitude, will, gratitude. Stop telling time, start building the clock. I'm Jeffrey Wendel. I'll see you next time.